Just doing my thing.
Thank you for tuning into the Voice of C38. I am your host, Brendan Wyatt. And let me just say, it is nice to be back doing my thing.
Late night edition.
Yeah, it is kind of a little bit of a late night. Not that any of you listeners are aware of that, because you're just listening it to your own accord.
We could tell them then that's the wake up edition. Yeah. They would know.
Well, by the time it gets released, it'll be, wake up, here it is.
True.
Joining me in studio is Brian.
Aloha, friends.
Welcome back. Tammy's joining us today, too.
Hello.
And, of course, the
wine goblet
he's kind of the Iron Man, I guess, because Austin's been around for the most part of it.
You're like the Sam Cronin of the podcast.
What do you think?
It's kind of weird.
Didn't expect that at the beginning of the year, did you?
No. And I've been around. I think I've only missed like one cast, and I think it was your solo one.
Yeah. When I was camping.
Yeah, and we couldn't cast together, so I ended up doing it all solo. Well, and then Matt's cast last week.
All right, so that's two casts.
Oh,
two casts.
So sad.
You were suspended though, right?
Yeah.
Yellow card accumulation on the drunken monk.
It was just a minor LCL tear.
Yeah, it was not Jones's tear. All right, so in this cast, we will spend our starting 11 talking about Portland. I don't want to. As I'm kind of milking it already, we're almost 2 minutes in. What do you think of that?
Did you see that explosion today?
No.
This building blew up from a gas leak. It was crazy.
Oh man, things are blowing up in Portland.
Whoa.
So right. So spending the starting 11 talking about Portland as much as we can, because I don't know. I mean, no one really likes to talk about not getting 3 points and the way that game just handled.
The B squad didn't do it.
Well,
and exactly. Let's jump right into that. The B squad. How do you guys feel about that? What was your initial reaction when you saw the lineup?
Surprised.
I knew he was going for it. I knew what he was doing. I know there's going to be some that argue against it, but he was resting players. We had 3 games in 8 days, 9 days, something like that, and that's really tough on any player. And right before going into the playoffs, we've already got our spot cinched. I know there's a lot of people that were like, "Oh, you had a chance to get the Shield. Even if we'd won, we wouldn't have the Shield. We'd still be waiting on this weekend." The difference is that we wouldn't have to be hoping for Dallas to lose.
Yeah.
But I almost feel that from his mindset, it's got to be, we are undefeated at home, and I want to keep that. And when I go into the playoffs, the thing that the fan base and the front office said at the beginning of the season was, we want to run into the playoffs. Nothing about the supporter shield, because nobody thought we'd be there. So I think what his thought process would be, I need to rest my players for the playoffs. I need to come home, keep my undefeated streak at home. Was it the right decision? It really depends on how much you weigh in the supporter shield and really what happens this weekend. If we don't pull a win this weekend, then it was a waste.
If we don't pull a win this weekend, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot, like, a long season like this with that many games close together at the end of the season is just difficult for players, and you're going to have to rest them sometime, or it's just not going to turn out well in the playoffs.
Brian, what was your initial reaction when you first saw the lineup?
I mean, I knew there'd be some changes, especially being on turf, and traveling up there on really a day. But I didn't expect wholesale like they did. But, that being said, they had enough on the field, I think, to get the job done. Doyle hits the woodwork twice. Either one of those goes in, we're happy campers. But yeah, I was kind of surprised being that close. I mean, that just kind of, I think, shows you that the Shield is a secondary goal or even lower. And
do you feel like it's an afterthought?
Yeah, because you can tell the mindset now is to play out for the long haul, meaning the month of November and hopefully December 10th, and not worry about that shield. We've already got home field advantage for the first games that we play. We get a result against Houston, draw or win, we can still host MLS Cup. We'll just have to go beat Dallas to do it. So I think those were taking precedent over, win the shield, win the shield. Would have been nice? Absolutely. I mean, when's the last time it's been done by this team?
Never.
It's never
exactly.
been done. But I think your problem is that, and we have a huge fan base of people that watch the European leagues, and so for them they consider the Shield the ultimate thing, and I get it. The best team of the season wins the Supporters' Shield. The team that's done it for 34 games, has the most points per game, wins the Shield, and that is what many would consider a true championship team versus how normal U.S. playoffs work. But this is still the U.S. It's still a U.S.-based league, and they still are going to reward you more for the cup. You don't get stars over your, shields for a Supporters' Shield.
Nobody hardly knows who won
the MLS Cup.
I was talking to a.
It's going to be an afterthought. It just is, and I don't think that's going to change really anytime soon. Now, would I have loved to get a Supporters' Shield? Yes. Do I believe that the Supporters' Shield shows the true best team of the season? Yes, but the MLS doesn't see it that way, and so your coaches and your players aren't going to see it that way.
I don't know, the only reason I was really kind of stoked about winning the Supporters' Shield was that you get home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs, regardless of who you're playing. That was the biggest thing to me. But this team has shown they can go win at a place like Dallas, or do well at LA. So I don't think that's as much of an issue. Hopefully.
So yeah, my first initial response when I saw the lineup was, "Oh shit! Well, the Supporters' Shield doesn't matter to them."
Yeah, chuck it.
That was a little bit of a negative mindset on my part. It wasn't as negative as my dad's, who was like, "Pablo and his ego gets in the way again." That's some people are going to have that kind of mindset. And the more I thought about it, and I'm going to agree with Austin. I think if you're going to turn it to a positive twist, then let's turn it towards, all right, we're going to try to remain unbeaten at home. That's something that really is, that's something to be proud of. That's something that not really many teams can do.
Only 5 have done it.
And that's in a 20-year existence. So that's really kind of a good feat. And I was talking to a friend of mine today who doesn't really know a whole lot about soccer. And I had mentioned where the Rapids were at and that, they had a chance to possibly maybe clinch the Supporters' Shield if they had won in their last game, pending on the results of Dallas. And she had said, haven't they won it already? No way. That's the MLS Cup. And so, you got to think a lot of people out there maybe who aren't, like, Austin said, who don't watch European soccer, who don't necessarily look at the tables the same way, would have thought a trophy's a trophy, you won it. And I could see where I wouldn't think that the FO and Pablo and the organization feels screw the Supporters' Shield. We're going for the MLS Cup. But it does show me that if you're going to take an opportunity to rest guys, that was the game. There were some key guys I felt like we needed. But again, if you're going to take a chance in losing 3 points or losing a game in general, better that game than this next one. And part of it is because it's at home and decision day for MLS. The more the way last weekend worked out and the way that this weekend is starting to play out, I'm surprised the conspiracy theorists haven't sat there and said things were rigged, because it's going to be one heck of a weekend. Like, people are going to be watching their phones as much as they're going to be watching the pitch in front of them, because it's really going to be kind of what's going to happen, who's going to be where, where the table's going to be, who's going to be in what position in the playoffs, who locks what up. But as far as the Rapids go, Brian was right. We've nailed home field and we've got a CCL bid. So
that's true. I forget about that.
There's really some good things going on for the Rapids when you look at ahead for next year too. Granted, we lost, but it just we're moving on. I mean,
We
we've
lost on 2 PKs and only one of them went in. Like,
right, and
Yeah.
I hate it when games are decided on a PK because whether it's deserved or not, it just seems cheap. And for them to get 2 of them in the first half,
I felt like the ref was really trying to push for them to get that. That was just, because I like to seem to think that way when that's how they play. You should have seen our over 30 league game on Sunday, man.
Oh,
Talk about
jeez.
bad reffing. Look at that. We're spending part of our 11 minutes talking about other stuff other than that Portland game because that's just really, I mean, do we really want to relive that? No, we don't. We're ready to look forward to the Houston game. We're even talking about the playoffs, and those are the things that are worth looking forward to and a bit more positive as far as, even, the listeners. It's you don't want to keep battling over bad stuff that happened last week. Blah.
look at what this team has accomplished this season. If we win this weekend, and hopefully we do, we will have the most wins in a season we've ever had since they got rid of the no ties rule. So the only season, and even then, we only had one season where we had more wins than we're going to have. So that's...
And that league at that time you weren't facing the kind of teams you're facing now.
No.
You're not facing the kind of players you're facing now.
And less
It
games.
was only like, what, 10, 12 teams total? I mean, it wasn't that.
Yeah. It's almost not even like worth comparing it to when it comes to,
It was a whole different.
the apples and oranges in some aspects.
Yeah.
It's just huge. With that, plus we've already gotten the most points at home we've ever had, the most wins at home we've ever had. Like, this team has accomplished a ton. If they don't allow more than one goal in against Houston, they will have the record for least goals at home in a season.
Ooh.
Per game, yeah. .047 right now, I believe it is.
And that's not all, like, you can't give credit to just Tim Howard, because not only did he come halfway through the season, but, Zach McMath was standing on his head for the first half of the season. And that back four we've got, it's not just 4 guys. It's been probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And it's, been
You
a
got
combination of
Sarah
them.
and Cronin in that, too.
Right. So you're even looking at 9 guys who have really just performed very, very well over the year. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as far as who we might think are player of the year, defensive player of the year, and kind of stuff like that. So we'll touch on that in a little bit. But a little birdie tells me Austin's done his homework and done some offensive breakdowns as far as how the Rapids have done this season. So let's get into that.
So I chose to do an offensive breakdown because, personally, my player of the year and my defensive player of the year are both defensive players. So, because the offense really hasn't done anything to warrant a player of the year, and so I was like, let's break down the offensive players and see how they really did. So, in goal scoring order, it'll be Gashi is your number 1 with 8. Then you have Baji and Doyle tied with 6 apiece.
Can you believe Baji's got 6?
Yeah. And then you have Hairston and Jones at 3 apiece. And then Papa with 2. And then you start getting into the ones and all of that fun.
Jones, 3 goals in, 8 games?
Yeah. So
The what if?
points.
Mhm.
So points per game. Under minutes, so total minutes for each point that is scored. Your worst player in your offense, if you include him in your offense, would be Powers at 406.
Just out of curiosity, and you probably don't have this answer, but where does he rate as far as on the defensive side?
Well, if you compare him to a guy who's played defensive mid the entire season, which would be Cronin, he's at 714. So he has 1 goal and 3 assists, and Powers has 1 goal and 4 assists with slightly less time played. So, sorry, Powers.
Yeah, well, it just says Powers is the defensive mid, which we've talked about how
Yeah,
he
we've
plays better
talked
in
about
that
it.
position. So yeah, all right.
He did have one good game that I wasn't involved. I didn't get to be involved in the cast on, where he had 2 assists basically, and he had that was the first time all season where I was like, he actually looks like he's an offensive mid. I was watching the game. I was like, he's in the 18 multiple times. He did a good job that game, and then last game, of course, he got moved back into defensive mid with our missing players. So, or game before last,
Right.
He got moved back. If you're looking at points per game, our best player is now Jones at 140.
Is he that new guy we're getting?
Yeah. We'll
That
talk
new
about him a
signing?
little bit later, I think.
Just checking.
Papa
like the
is your
Jones
second
sighting.
at 149. Then you fall into Hairston, 155. Hairston jumped up there pretty quickly. Baji falling in at 4th at 164. Followed by Gashi closely at 169.
Speaking of Gashi, where was he on Sunday?
Did he play?
Quiet.
Yeah. What I heard.
Yikes.
And then you have Latu, our midseason signing, at 198. And then Doyle at 261. So that's basically most of your offensive players have played enough minutes to maybe count and put in some goals. Or a goal for a good chunk of that. So the offense has not really been that great. Which usually when you're voting for player of the year, it's always an offensive player because that's what everybody thinks of. They always think of the all-star scorer, and then defense. That's why we usually do a defensive player of the year award, is because the offensive players always get it. This year, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Not when you're playing Pablo ball.
So I guess that can lead us right into our players of the years. I guess which one do we want to start with? Player of the year, defensive player of the year.
Well, it's
Defensive.
It's good. Yeah, since we've been talking about the defensive stuff, and let me before we go there, we can't blame the lack of offense on the players. I really think it's Pablo ball. I think it's the mentality and the tactics, which hate them or love them, it's working, and it's unfortunate because I can remember 4 years ago we were promised attacking soccer where it'd be fun attacking style soccer. We're not getting that, and we're not gonna get that.
That went to Dallas.
Yeah, that went to Dallas, and it's probably going to end up being a semifinal with us and Dallas, and you're going to get to see which is the type of mentality or tactical way of going about the game that's going to prevail. But Pablo Ball has kept some of these high priced, although they're not really high priced in other cities, but our high priced players from producing. And then again, you've got these defensive guys who are draft picks and rookies and smaller salary guys who were never going to get notice until now. I mean, we've talked about it when it came to the holy crap, I'm drawing a blank. The expansion draft, where we're going to have some guys that are going to be left unprotected, but they had a really good year as far as what they could do defensively in the midfield or in the back, and they're going to get picked up by other teams because of what they've done here. And
In this system.
Right, and that's because of this system. They may not do as well in another system that's not this way. And so as far as defensive player of the year goes, if Axel didn't come to your mind first, I'm going to be a bit shocked. But then again, there's 6 guys behind the ball there as far as who would be considered defensive players. I still have to go with Axel. I mean, I know Sam's played a lot of games and Michael too, and they're considered defensive mids, and that's the way that they line them up. But
this is true defensive player of the year. So yeah, you're right on.
I got to give it to Axel. I feel like Axel has come in, and we saw this with him last year. We knew there was a lot of potential with the guy, and every time he didn't play, I was frustrated. Why wasn't he not there? And I felt that way this year too. And he got a whole lot more minutes this year, and it's a damn good thing that he did. But, when Jones is sitting there telling them that Axel should have been nominated for the All-Star game, that says something. And,
And Axel has more goals than Powers and Cronin and Latu with 2 goals.
and they were clutch goals. It's not like they were fluke goals or anything like that. Like Axel's goals, both of them were clutch. They needed to happen when they happened. If anybody could score a clutch goal, leave it to Axel. So it's not just defensive player of the year. He gets some kudos for being able to score a goal in a clutch situation where if you were playing as I can't believe I'm going to use this, but you're playing your FIFA game and you're playing just as a center back. Go ahead and try and see if you can score in the 90th minute to win a game. Bet you can't do it. Just saying. Anyway, that's my defensive player of the year.
Throwing down the gauntlet.
Yeah. B, who do you got?
I'm going to mix it up a little bit, just because you took my original choice as well. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Axel. I would almost make a case for Mark Birch though as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in both of those cases, this is defensive player of the year. So I'm not looking at any offensive stats. And the one thing that's I think stands out for both of them is longevity, or the ability
Consistency.
They have played all but 1, maybe 2 matches.
No more than 3.
Yeah, all year. And they have been the guys that you can write in the lineup with Sharpie, as in ink pen,
Right.
not Chris, the goalkeeper coach.
Right.
So I think the fact that they have been counted on every week, regardless of the opponent, and I think Birch has flown really under the radar. But again, this may be a guy that's flourished in this system, would maybe not, and he's probably seen it too, hasn't flourished on other teams. This has been the right fit for him. And I think, especially having a coach like Pablo, these defensive players are really, kind of finding their own way and able to affect games other than offensively. So I'm going to go Mark Birch.
All right. I like it.
Just
And
to throw a wrench in this.
Austin?
It was really hard for me. I actually had basically 4 players I was debating between.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. You're right.
I ended up.
Watsy.
Well, 2 of those players were
Jared
goalkeepers.
Watson is.
Not yet. But 2 of those players were goalkeepers because I think Matt did a great job the first half of the season. I think Howard has done a very good job the second half of the season.
Very
the
true.
only reason that they aren't my defensive player of the year is because both of them have only gotten to play half the season.
You
Yeah.
could even
So
argue
for me
Colorado
that made it
Rapids
very
goalkeeper
difficult to make that vote.
is the player of the year.
So I believe Maxwell said something similar in our interview this last weekend. But I chose Cronin. I
had a
thought that
feeling.
Cronin. I like Axwell. He was close on my list, but I felt that Cronin added on top of his defensive abilities, added a sense of leadership to that field that I don't think Axel did. So I think Cronin went above and beyond defending and really helped kind of lead that defense and lead this team as our captain. So that is what kind of bumped him into it for me because he's done a great job.
Absolutely.
Doing that and handling it, and you can tell when he's missing the very few games that he missed. So he's just solid, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. And Azira gets even more credit than he does.
But how
I
come
think
he's not your defensive player then?
Was he number 4?
Azira is my player of the year.
Oh.
So let's just hold on. We got to back up. So we have a 3-way tie. Tammy, you can break the tie for
Sure.
defensive player of the year.
Who would?
What it is?
Oh my god! Take the wine away.
No, I'm not archering it. I have wine today.
Here's your choices: Axel, that really tall guy;
The tall one.
Mark Birch, man bun;
Man bun.
Sam Cronin,
Bald wine.
the Austin lookalike contest winner.
Well, pull Cronin.
Oh,
Okay, there you go. There's your voice of
Yeah.
C38.
defensive player of the year goes to Sam Cronin. Just for shits and giggles, since we know personally how you feel about Watts, and we're talking about defense, where though would you rank him in your defensive player of the year model? Like, is he in the top?
So if we're going to talk about Watts, we'll go into one of our other vote type things. 'cause
I'm
that's where
also
it's-
bringing this up because Brian has an article I'm going to post tomorrow or release day
So
on
I think
Watts with Watts.
The
So
problem with Watts, if Watts had played as solid as he's played for the last month, Watts would have been at the top of my list or close to it. The problem is he didn't. He had a very weak start to the season, even first half of the season. You could say he was still working on it 3/4 of the way into the season. So it's just been this last month he's really stepped up his game. But speaking of him, he is my most improved player of the year.
Wait,
Must
which
be
color?
the man bun kind
So-
of had to grow in for him
Down.
to play good.
that took my
There's
segue
no
away.
question
Were
about
you
it.
gonna say
and
that?
I don't think anybody can argue against it. The Rapids posted it, and I posted it under them.
Oh, I'm going to argue.
Jerry Watts did accept my friend request finally. I'd like to point out after I
Brian's
cornered
in the
him
corner.
after the game. But he went from a player that basically the last 2 years, buddy, cringed when he was on the field, when he subbed in,
I gotta go pee.
when he started. He was the butt of jokes for how bad of a player and how many mistakes he was making.
Your jokes.
Now he's our start, including me. Yeah.
You
Now
were the
he's
one.
starting-
You were the only one.
No.
Oh.
No. There's like a whole fan club that hated Watts.
Oh, hated.
Nobody.
Now they're all onto powers. It's okay. But he has just improved on a level, and in the last month, that's just insane. For him to earn that spot and to be doing as well as he's been doing the last few games is just insane. And to make that leap in one season, even with the players around him, that's a hard leap to make. And he's done it. And I don't think there's a player on the field that you can argue with. Even Hairston, who has shown some strength and really stepped up his game, has not made the leap.
Step your game up.
So that was actually, since we're talking about most improved players, I was going to make an argument because in my head I have a tie between Hairston and Baji. Because
There
Hairston
you go.
has come on, and we've talked about, like, he had that run of form a month ago where, like, dude was seriously making teams worry. And Baji, 6 goals. I don't know if I would have expected that from him in the beginning of the year. Like, I almost thought he was going to go to Charlotte, just because we had Doyle, we had Gashi, we had. I talked a bit about Calvert in the beginning, and we all know Calvert's on the bottom of the striker list, but he's getting some minutes, he's getting some run now. But as far as improved guys go, we were talking about how Baji couldn't finish for shit when he did have his moments and when he was playing at times, and we were like, why isn't Doyle there? When Doyle got hurt in the beginning, when he got nailed in Ireland, we had Baji in, and he just, he could make the runs here and there, but he couldn't finish. Well, he's finishing enough that he's got 6 goals, and he's getting more minutes, and he's becoming part of the starting lineup to the point where Doyle's in that number 10 spot now. Baji's really taken a step up as well, and Hairston, man, we gotta. I think he needs to be protected. Oh wait, he's Generation Adidas.
I like Hairston.
So thank God he's protected, because we would have lost him in the expansion draft for sure. Because the kid is 22, he's 23, and wicked fast, and is starting to show that he can really be dangerous on that outside wing. And there's some chemistry between the two of them. So when you put the two of them together, it's not your Connor Casey, Omar Cummings pair. It's something totally different. And I can't say it's exciting, flashy soccer, but it's something you want to watch. Because you're going to watch it grow and get better. And these two, as long as they keep playing together, they're going to start making some exciting attacking style soccer. And so those are my votes for most improved player of the year. I'm going to give it a tie with Baji and Hairston.
I like where you're going with that.
Okay.
I also approve of Austin's call as well. You know I'm a Watsy guy.
Article coming soon.
Yeah. Stay tuned to the voice of C38. In the next 24 hours, you'll see that before you read this. But I am going to go with Marlon Hairston for the simple fact that at the beginning of the year, he was being touted as the right back of the future. I mean, and look what he's been asked to do and progress as the season's gone along, to the fact that he was being counted on that outside to be the provider or the link up with Dominic Badji. The partnership has really grown, and it's going to be cool to see where it goes next year. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, Badji. Him being able to finish in the final third is night and day difference. But I think
Thank you, John Spencer.
Yeah, and you know what? That may be most improved.
It's all about Pablo's finishing, actually.
Well, Badji pulls out yellow cards, so doesn't he? Typically, so he's a little more assertive than Hairston.
Yeah, he's definitely a bit more aggressive, but sometimes that.
Not that it's a bad thing.
No,
sometimes
it's
good.
just sometimes as an attacker, your defensive technical ability isn't as good, and some of those yellow cards are coming from not necessarily making the right time on your tackle or making the right choice in what to do when you're defending, because that's not what he's asked to do. And so some of
when you weigh as much as a feather, and so like being a skinny guy and having played that role, it's much harder to defend someone who's just bigger than you, and like you're just going to get muscled off the ball, so you foul a little bit more. You try and play a little bit more aggressive with your arms and that kind of thing, because you're just trying to control someone that's bigger than you are.
So we've got a Watts, a Badji Hairston, a Hairston.
Tammy. Who's
You're
your
asking
most
a girl,
improved?
because I would go for. I think Hairston is cute.
Wow.
That's your most improved because he's
Out of
cute.
the three, he's the cutie.
So he's improved his cuteness from last year to this
and
year?
he's fast, and he's been consistent where the other two have grown. So I think Hairston's been more consistent, so he deserves it more.
Well, but it's most improved.
Oh, most improved? Then Badji, because he wasn't... When you first got him, a year or two ago?
Last year.
Last year. He wasn't playing to his potential, but I feel like maybe he's upped his game because of the strong players this season.
Was he cute last year?
Badji's not the one I thought was cute, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
He's okay.
All right, just checking.
So I'd say Badji then.
Okay.
All right,
So
Badji
now-
with the winner.
That's a tie now, though.
Oh. All right, Matt. Who's not here?
Yeah, edit that in.
Technically, I put Hairston as my second, so
Me
Well,
too.
that-
I guess.
Wait, but I put Watts my second, so...
And
Well,
I-
yeah, but Hairston then has 3.
Yeah, so Hairston almost gets... Yeah. All right. So the voice of C38 rules Hairston as the most improved player.
Are we calling these awards the Voicies?
Yes, we'll call them the Voices. I like it.
The Voices.
All right, now on to the MVP.
Wait, no, this is most valuable player
Most
or
valuable player.
Yeah, the player of the year.
player of the
Player
year?
of the year. Same thing.
Okay.
I'm still debating on that one, and it seems like Austin's already got his answer, so we're going to go to Austin.
I got mine, by the way.
Okay.
I have to go with Azira. I think that he has just been such a workhorse for this team. There are a couple players. Cronin came to mind, of course. Even Gashier Doyle. Doyle came to mind. Even though Doyle hasn't scored a lot of goals, Doyle has been a workhorse up there. But Azira has just been box-to-box midfield, doing a great job.
Boxing this in here.
So it's just he's done an amazing job, and I find it for me to actually vote for 2 defensive midfielders as player of the year and defensive player of the year, I thought would never happen. So it's just insane. But he's done a great job, and we know what happens when he's not playing.
Right. Can't argue that. Who do you got?
Similar vein. You guys know I'm on the Doyle train.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he's gone, it's a different team.
Yeah.
And the things he does besides putting the ball in the back of the net are huge and I think go under the radar. But my most valuable player, again, because of consistency and just the Iron Man factor, and, he holds his team together. He's the team captain, is Sam Cronin.
All right. I can't argue that. So the reason I haven't had my mind made up is I was back and forth between Azera and Gashi. And for me, Gashi, even though he hasn't produced the kind of numbers that he did in Switzerland, he's done rather well despite Pablo Ball. I think that he's had to adjust, and usually we've talked about guys who need some time to adjust. Doyle's one of them.
Yeah.
He's on his second year now, or his first full year, if you want to look at it that way. And it took him some time to adjust, and plus with some injuries, and he hasn't been, fully on the lineup. But Gashi's been there, except for international call-ups and one little tweak of an injury. And I have to agree that
And
without
a 1-game suspension for running onto the field.
yeah, well, new league, you got to get used to how things run around here. But like Doyle, the team's not the same without Gashi. And so that's kind of where I'm with that. But then you think about Michael Azera, and you think about the fact that we picked him up off of waivers, so to speak. Not necessarily that's how it was done, but we got him for free.
Yeah.
And Seattle let him go like it was no
Oh,
big
free.
deal. And this guy, he upped. If we're going to talk about like market value, Michael Azera upped his market value more than almost any other player on the squad, based on consistency, based on his play, based on his defensive abilities. And the team also doesn't seem to play the same when he hasn't been in the lineup for those 2 games. Now, granted, he did make one dumb call last week.
Ugh.
And there might have been a couple other times this season where I put my head in my hands, but there hasn't been a player on the field I haven't done that with. So that's just kind of part of the sport, and that's how it goes. I think I'm going to have to give it to Michael Azera.
Yeah, no argument.
Cam, who do you think would be the player of the year? Stuck out the most, performance-wise, that you noticed, did good things?
Was Zira?
That's who, yeah.
He has my favorite number.
No, there you go. That's it. 22, done.
But I think Harrison, because he's such young talent, and I felt like he was pretty consistent throughout all the games.
That's true. There really weren't a whole lot
And
of
he's
moments.
fast. Like, he really got to the places where he should be.
I hope he doesn't develop or continue injury issues, because I think that could really derail his game, unfortunately. So hopefully he gets that kind of straightened out during the off season, and maybe with a training regimen and things like that.
Okay.
Because that's the only thing that keeps him down.
Right. And speaking of that, the last... Oh, wait. So the Voicy goes to Michael Azera?
Yep.
Whatever.
Go 22!
The next award,
Bandwagon.
it's not really an award, though. Biggest bust.
Oh.
But before we go on to biggest
I was
bust,
going to say, you go first.
because I feel like Dylan Cerna needs some mention, because he was...
And nothing about bust.
No. That's why I said before we go on to bust, because injury really, really fucked him.
He's our woulda, coulda
And
player
exactly.
of the year.
That's what I was going to get to.
What
Is
about Jones? He's been out. He could have been the woulda, coulda.
that was
player.
what I was getting to, Neenerhead,
But we kind of knew what we were getting with him.
to an extent. Like the thing is with Dylan, we were really starting to see, like, if you watched last year, you knew that this kid had something. There was definitely something there. And then in the beginning of the year, we were calling for Dylan. We're like, this kid is a spark. This is what we need. And as soon as he started showing up, Dallas done and screwed that all up. And it's unfair. And I really just can't wait for next year to see Dylan come back, because it almost seemed like the season changed a little bit when he got.
Well, it hurt us so much because of the other injuries on top of that. Like, he would have been the person that would have said, before we moved Gashi in that 10 role, you could put Cerna, and he had put Cerna in.
Could
that
you
role.
have
I think
imagined what would have
it's not-
happened if we had put Cerna in that 10 role?
It's insane. He's got so much talent. My worry now is that we have so much young offensive talent coming up right now. You're going to have to let someone go. So you've got Hairston, you've got Baji, you've got Cerna.
I wouldn't worry about it till after the expansion draft.
Yeah.
So I just think we're probably going to lose one of them.
And nobody's going to
And
pick up a kid who just came off ACL.
Well, not only
Yeah.
that, he's homegrown, so it's not even an
Oh,
issue.
true. Yes, that's
Is
true.
he the Brighton kid?
Yep. That's also me just pushing for Brighton. But anyway, bust of the year.
Bust of the year.
I was
Go.
on the fence for a minute there between Jones and Papa. I'm going to give it to Papa.
Papa.
And I don't know if part of that is because of Pablo's issues of, is he lazy in training? God knows what. We've heard some things here and there. But when I look at the last two performances, now granted this is over the year, when I look at the last two performances from Papa, man, I can kind of see why he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. We were just talking about Pablo Ball and the system that we have. I don't know if he really fits into this system. And I think when we picked him up, we thought that he would because we kind of needed a playmaker, but not that kind of playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I think the playmaker we needed, we got in Gashi. And unfortunately,
Or Jermaine.
it's hard to tell there. That's why I was back and forth. Who gets the bust of the year? Is it Jermaine or is it Marco? Marco's been healthier more of the year than Jermaine. So that's why I give it to Marco Papa, because despite all the news that we just heard about Jones's LCL nearly being ripped off the bone, man, that should have came out a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Just saying, that's kind of a fail
That's pretty
on
weak.
PR department
Papa's
there. But
only played
as many,
200
yeah,
minutes.
he's had as many minutes as Jones.
Yeah, 200 more. But yeah, basically, which is it's
Do you think that's the coach's fault, though?
Some of it is, yeah.
It's the coach's
Yeah.
decision for sure. Because none of it
Because
was
he
injury
did
related.
bring a good energy. When he first came to the team and he got on the field,
Yeah.
he did draw you in.
And then
and
something happened during or after his little bit of a leg twitch, and I want to say it was in May. It was either May or June-ish. It was right before, the break and stuff. Because you're right. The beginning of the season, Marco Papa was really doing well, and we were really happy with it. And I think that's what set a lot of fans off when he wasn't playing and we knew he was healthy, because here's this guy who was really doing well. You're right.
That's
he
where
gets
you
on
blame
the
the
field.
coach, because then it's a mental game between the two, and then maybe he can't perform because of that.
I'll bring my dad back into this. Pablo's ego. There are certain things that, and we saw this with and I bring this up because, I can't help it. The whole Beckerman issue back when Pablo and Beckerman were playing, and he basically went to the club and said, it's me or him. There are certain times where you have to sit there and put the ego aside. And Pablo wants what he wants, and it's working, and it's showing, and maybe there was something there. But what baffles me is that I sat in press conferences where Pablo's sitting next to Marco, and he's saying, I babied him, and we really have things planned, and this is how we want things to work. And this was in the beginning of the season, and this was before the other injury. They were nursing the stabbing. They weren't nursing the leg injury. And then once the leg injury happened, that was kind of like, I'm moving on.
They weren't talking about the stabbing.
No,
we were.
We were because they
it's-
weren't.
right.
But, either way, once that happened, it was like Pablo said, I'm moving on. Because there were many, many times that, and even now, Marco Papa's been healthy and ready to go. You can't tell me that the guy is only 60% or can only play 40 to 60 minutes the entire season. And if so, then that what's the issue there? Do we have a really poor medical staff, or is it him and he's lazy in training? Like there are other questions that need to be asked at this point at the end of the season. Why hasn't he played? Coach's decision? Because I just don't feel that he was never 100% the whole season long, because he didn't sustain an injury like Dylan Cerna. He didn't sustain an injury like Jermaine Jones. It was just a freaking hamstring strain. So it's not as if between the stabbing and the hamstring strain has kept Marco Papa from being 100% healthy all season. I just can't buy that. So there's got to be some...
coach.
Exactly. There's
got
to
to be a coach problem there, whether rightfully so or not. Like, we're never going to know.
Yeah, the energy's different.
Whether Papa pissed off Pablo or Pablo just let his ego get in the way. Like, there's a lot of
It
stuff.
Reminds me a little bit of the Gabby Torres situation last year.
Yeah, and sometimes things are justified. Like, a coach can be justified for it, but by not speaking, which is the proper thing to do, you don't let that kind of stuff get out. It's bad to air your dirty laundry about it. But something had to have happened between those two, which is, I think, what has been affecting Papa's.
I also think it's a curse to wear number 10. It
is here.
That's what I say. If you don burgundy, don't wear number 10. As much as you want to, don't wear that number, because ask Martin Rivero, ask Gabby Torres, and now ask Marco Papa.
Christian Gomez.
Forgot about him.
In Colorado.
I think when P-Bay left, he put a curse over the number.
Yeah. You just can't wear 10 in
Screw
Colorado.
you, Coloradians.
Yeah, just no 10. Do not wear 10 in Colorado. That's a message to any player ever coming in. Do not wear 10. Anyway, moving on. Austin, who is your biggest bust?
I was going to let B go first.
All right, B, you go first.
Yeah, my initial knee-jerk was Jermaine, but I can't blame him for getting injured, and so I kind of give him an incomplete.
That's kind of where I was at.
It was beyond his control. That'd be like trying to blame Dylan Cerna for getting hurt. There's no way you can do it. So I got to go Marco Papa as well. And along the same lines of what you were saying, it's not an injury-related absence. Something is going on with the way he plays, the way he reacts to the system, that we don't know being outside of the coaching room. Mm-hmm. A couple things I will say, though. It's kind of interesting. If you look back on it, look at how the team plays when he's on the field. And it almost seems like, I don't want to say they're taken out of their rhythm, but they have to kind of hesitate and wait to see what happens with him and play around that.
The flow changes.
Yeah. Is that just me?
No.
Whereas, any number of guys, it seems a much more fluid
style.
10 guys all in the same kind of wavelength. And as much as he can do with the ball and watch him just kind of orchestrate things when he can, that's great. But does that fit into the other 10 dudes behind him, the other 17 guys on the roster? And I think that's where the problem lies. And
that could be what Pablo's seeing, and that's why. That's why he's only getting 10 minutes, if that, a game.
I think it took him the first quarter of the season to realize, ooh, you know what? Maybe it's not working out the way we thought it was going to. Because you're right. The first part of the year, he's special. He's amazing with the ball. He's a creative playmaker. We're gonna ease him into the situation and then go from there. But then it just kind of fell off the ledge.
Maybe that's what happened in Seattle, and that's why we got him for free.
It ain't obviously his first rodeo.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my 2 cents.
All right, Monk.
I had a problem, so I got narrowed down to 3. One of them being Marco Papa.
Make up your mind, man.
Well, I had different reasons for each. So I thought Marco Papa
is cute
but I put that on Pablo. I felt that whatever the reason is, whether it's Marco Papa's personality and Pablo not getting along with it, or whatever the reason is, I have to say that has nothing to do with him on the field for me. So it's hard for me to say, okay, he's definitely was a bust. He was a huge bust, but It seemed like it was something outside of the field that was causing that problem.
But luckily, we didn't pay a ton of money for him, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's...
So then, next one, if you're going by numbers and amount of money paid, would be Doyle.
Oh man.
Strongly disagree.
Yeah.
So do I.
Oh,
But
okay.
if you specifically about money and production, technically he hasn't scored the amount of goals he should be doing. He hasn't been producing what they said he was going to produce.
I blame
which-
that on Pablo Ball.
Well, yeah,
And
and
injury.
that's why he's not
He has a nasty
Aye.
injury.
Yeah.
biggest bust of the year.
Nice.
Mine is Powers.
I had a feeling.
Come on, man.
Oh man.
How is
I
he a
think-
bust? What did you expect from him
Make your
coming
case.
in?
Make your
My
case.
case is the same thing, and I guess it's more over the years he's played here, not just this year. But he was given an opportunity to take over that
You agree with me, I'm
offensive
walking
mid
out,
spot,
Teddy.
which is where he played under Perea, and he didn't do anything with it. Like before, he was still being played as kind of a defensive midfielder the last 2 seasons, and this season he was really given the opportunity to play a role that he succeeded in under Perea, and he didn't do it this year. So after all of your statements, I think I would have to go that Marco Papa might be a bigger bust.
Okay. We're
Um,
swaying you.
You are swaying me, but I still think Powers should be mentioned in his lack of ability to produce on the level he was producing before.
I will give you this. His production has declined since his rookie year, and it seems to be on a consistent decline because we've talked about it, especially over the last 3 months, about what we saw from him and what we're seeing, and it's changing our expectations of him. He had that one good game where he had 2 assists, but you're right. He hasn't produced like he did 3 years ago. So I could see where you could make a case for him being a bust, but I think overall it would be really hard to beat the Marco Papa situation.
Marco Papa has just been terrible. I just feel that a lot of that has been outside of him. I think that has to do with a lot with Pablo, and on whether if that's an issue where Marco Papa is just a bad personality in the locker room, that's different. But we don't know that, so that's making a pretty big assumption that it's him and not Pablo being the issue.
I didn't
So-
say that.
Yeah,
so
I don't
that-
think so. He seems like a pretty genuine. He's a quiet guy when we
It
talk to him.
just seems like he's kind of getting a very raw deal in his what he's getting and being
He's
given.
a certain type of player. I just think that
Oh.
I think Brian nailed it on the head. I think that he just doesn't fit the system, and that's why Pablo hasn't played him as much. Is because, yeah, he came in, things were great. We eased him in. We started to see more of him, and once we saw more of him, we started to realize he changes the flow. Things don't necessarily go the way they want.
Yeah, in a way
And-
you don't want to.
Right.
Or he
Right.
doesn't
But
want
can't
to.
you say
Did
the
he
same
change
thing
the
for
flow right
Powers?
away, or did it change after the attitude?
Well, you didn't really get to see him
No.
after.
That's
Yeah, you
exactly it. There was something there between that second injury, or actually it was his first injury. You can't count the stabbing as his first. So
I like how you keep bringing up the stabbing.
The
the stabbing.
I
Can
don't
we,
have
call,
that-
can we just call it the situation with
The
the sharp
situation.
object?
that
the
reminds
sharp
me of-
object situation, not the Jersey Shore situation. Anyway, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of elements that has played into why Papa hasn't had a lot of minutes. Tam, where do
I
you
guess
stand?
my biggest point is that Powers got the opportunity to shine, while I don't think Papa has.
Right.
So for me, Papa got opportunities at the beginning of the season and has basically been benched the rest of the season, while Powers continued to be forced in and not doing great. So I guess that's where my initial thought process was. Thinking on it now might not be the best choice. Papa still probably is the biggest bust we had, but I thought it was a mentionable thing, and I don't consider Doyle a bust for those that are wondering. That it's just purely on the numbers.
That was dangerous of
Man,
you to
I
mention that.
I almost came through this mic.
Technically, it
All right.
would be a
Yes.
statistical analysis. So we're going to move on to Houston?
Well,
No, they-
we got to get Tammy's opinion real quick, and then
Oh,
we must
yes,
move on
Oh,
back.
to.
yes, I'm back. I would say Papa, unfortunately.
Okay, wrap it up.
Just say that. I don't find him cute, ugly, or not. It has nothing to do with that. But I definitely noticed the energy as well, or the flow, or whatever it had been.
The karma.
The karma. Because
Most
I
of it.
thought it was exciting, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, something wasn't there.
Do you have any news or anything else that you'd like to add before we go on?
Well,
to...
the only thing really in news, I've been on vacation, everybody, and so I have not prepped very
Oh.
well. But
They've missed you.
although Portland, we did lose, Howard did make a really good save.
Yeah.
And he was player of the match for that penalty save that
Oh.
he got in the 39th minute. It could have been 2-0 very easily.
And timeout. You mentioned Howard being man of the match. Isn't it funny?
How he doesn't get it at home.
Yeah,
But he finally did, though.
Well, he did because Matt didn't think he would because of the whole people trying to meet him. Right?
Yeah. Wasn't he the man of the match finally at that the last San Jose game?
I missed that
No.
game.
Yeah.
No.
I thought he was.
I don't think he was.
Okay, so that's there again. There's that conspiracy
So Matt
theory.
nailed it. I think
Yeah,
Matt
he
nailed
could.
it.
He
He's
got
man
it
of the
in
match
Portland.
on the road.
Right, and he deserves it. I mean, he got
Absolutely.
2 penalty kicks towards him, and he did very well. So kudos to Howard, even though we lost.
Which, by the way, he will be out in public on Friday. Did you see that?
Yes. Go ahead, fill it out.
He's going to be at the Wells Fargo on Friday afternoon from 4 to 5:30 for a little meet and greet.
Ooh.
As I will be on the road to Nebraska,
Mm.
of course.
That's a horrible state to drive through. We just did it.
It is a
Yeah.
horrible say. I'll admit it.
We timed
Although
it
we did meet a
perfectly,
nice
so-
guy at the gas station.
There's a few of us. There's a few of us there.
Gave me a free coffee. Kudos if you're listening. 'Cause I'm sure you are. Thank you.
Thank you, random Husker fan. One of 95% of the state.
And then you have to go to the Floppers. That game was horrible. The refs. Ah. Gotta love it. I'm gonna call them the Diego brothers.
Team Diego.
Because they were both horrible. I don't even know which one to choose.
They
were
always
both bad.
are. But
Well-
the beauty of it is Chara got a yellow card and he has to sit the next game.
Yeah. Yeah. So winner goes to Diego Chara for being the douchebag in the match.
Yeah. I would go with it. Granted, I think always hockey. I apologize for that. But Chara, I don't even like that name. So, screw you, Chara.
Screw you, Chara.
Okay, Austin, let's do Know Thy Enemy because we're going to move on to Houston. Yay, this weekend.
Hooray for this weekend. Can't forget last weekend fast enough.
I already did. You just had to go and mention it
I know.
again.
No, I brought it up with Howard.
I see.
Deserved it.
So the Houston Dynamo have 33 points. That puts them 19th in the league. That's 19 out of 20 teams, guys. Doing a great job so far.
That's why I said
Correct
an
me if I'm
hour
wrong.
ago I'd be worried if they lost this game.
That's not good.
They have 38 goals for. That's second worst in the league, and tied with us.
For what?
38 goals apiece.
Goals
yeah,
for.
us.
Oh. Yeah, but
Um,
their goals against is
44, tied, 3-way tie for 10th worst in the league. But they're terrible on the road.
Yeah, what's their
They
road
have
record?
one win on the road right now.
that's almost Portland-esque.
So
That is.
I think Portland's the only one that's worse on the road.
Just nailed that one.
0. This will be the third year they haven't made the playoffs. So they're kind of like the Rapids were up until this year.
Uh-oh, look out next year.
Really, really
Maybe look at Papa.
terrible and doing nothing.
They will on the cheap.
This will be their worst season ever, no matter how they finish.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's just not going really well for Houston.
Good. Let's perpetuate the misery. They
It's
don't-
like there's nothing I can say that says they're right. If we lose this weekend, it's our own fault.
Yep.
There's nothing on their stat sheet that says that they can't score goals, just like we haven't been able to score goals. They let goals in a lot. They don't win on the road. They're not in the playoffs. They have really nothing to fight for.
Take me,
They play for Houston. I mean,
Oh, sorry.
So, and they're from Texas, which just makes it. Yeah.
And we know how Matt feels about Texas.
Aw.
we should.
There's
have
only
his
one
rant
worse
just replay
team
it.
in Texas. Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason this game should not result.
Yeah, but
3
we
points
got to
to
be
the Raptors.
careful,
Are we jinxing
man.
it
I
now?
was just going to say, we got to be careful what we're saying because, we don't want to jinx it. And we sure as shit don't want our players to think, oh, we're playing Houston, our final game. We got this.
Which they won't.
Because,
They won't.
yeah, you'd like to think that the coaching staff and the players themselves are smart enough. And this is
Yeah.
going to take me into my 3 points. Because my first point is don't get cocky. Don't feel like you've already got this in the bag. Go out there and treat this as if it's a playoff game. It may be Houston,
Yeah.
and they may have had a shit season, but we cannot afford to be cocky on any level. There's no room for complacency. Not in the last game of the season. Not on decision day. There's just no room for it. So, yeah, point number 1 is no complacency. Point number 2 leads to coming out hard and pressing. Like, they need to press hard. Like, the defense just doesn't know what to do when the ball is on their feet. I've watched 3 or 4 Houston games, not by choice, just because that's what was on. And I've started to realize that they kind of remind me of the C team that I coach. You just... I can't believe that I'm saying it, but it's true. If the ball is on their defensive foot, they don't know what to do. Press hard. Just press. And that's going to lead to my point number 3, score. Because their first touch isn't that great, for professionals at least. And when you sit
Yikes.
there and if you press, you're going to get the ball back on your feet. And so between Doyle and Baji, and whether it's Latu or if Hairston's back and Gashi, like, just capitalize on their mistakes because it's going to happen. And that's point 3 is to just put the ball in the back of the freaking
Do you
net.
think Jones? You guys.
It's been rumored.
coming in soon? Okay, never mind. We'll wait till Brian.
It's-
Never mind.
It's been rumored,
I said
but
nothing.
we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So, yeah, B, you're up.
Okay, my first one is kind of similar vein to that. Score in the first half.
Yeah.
We don't need any drama.
Right.
Put your foot on these guys' throat. Don't let up. No, we don't need to leave this till the 92nd minute and biting our fingernails, watching the scoreboard and watching our phones for other games. The other one, number 2, is kind of goes along the lines with that, but leave it all on the field. They don't play a game for, 10 days, 2 weeks after this? Man, just leave it all out there. And I know they will. That's the way they play. They lay their guts out. We're at altitude. If there's any team that should be suffering playing in Denver, it's going to be Houston.
That's true. Or Orlando, but man.
Yeah. Well, we saw what happened there, but
Right.
hopefully learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
So, yeah, leave it out there on the field. And then my third one, a little bit different. Get Jones some minutes.
Yeah.
This was kind of my target game for him to come back anyway. I think he's got to get some time in before the playoffs if he's going to matter in the playoffs. So, I mean, for example, we said it, I don't know if we said it, but last week I saw he was going balls to the wall. He was going all out in training, getting knocked to the ground, taking others to the ground, getting right back up. I think had the Portland game been at home, he would have played. But the fact that it was on the road on turf made that decision. So I look for him to
Are you
be
expecting
playing.
him to get Marco Papa minutes or real minutes?
I expect him to get Marco Papa minutes.
You just throw him in just a little bit at the end.
That's
Is that
exactly
weird?
it. That's Marco
just to
Papa.
get his
Yeah.
legs out there.
I think if
Yeah.
you get 15, 20 minutes just to kind of get back out in the stadium, just to get in a meaningful game with
Hear
his
the
That's
cheers
not
from
Papa
the
minutes.
crowd.
Isn't it usually like the
4.
last 2 minutes?
That's
they,
true.
like-
It's gonna okay.
That's Pablo.
Let's not call it Papa minute. That's not. Yeah. He'll get Caleb Calvert.
Yes.
minutes. How's that?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Since that. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Monk.
All right. So my first point is I want to shut out.
That wouldn't be bad.
I'll
We
take
have-
one of those.
Undefeated at home.
That's true.
I want to keep that undefeated streak at home.
They can
No matter
appreciate
if we score or not, I want to shut out. I also want us to break that record. So we don't let them score. We break the record, and we have the least goals scored on us at home
I like
any
it.
team has ever done, which I think is an amazing feat for a team that did so terrible the last 2 years.
Talk about most improved. Just saying.
This whole team.
Yeah. The whole
Let's be
freaking
honest.
organization from the front to the back. Anyway.
Well, and we already discussed about it earlier, but it'll also make us the 5th team ever to go undefeated at home for a season, an entire season. That's huge.
And the first time that Kevin Doyle's been on a team and never done it. Just saying.
My second point is I want multiple goals.
Yeah.
I think after sacrificing last game, you need to regain the momentum you lost by losing that game. So you need to go get a couple goals and ride that momentum. So keep them from scoring and score multiple goals so you can go into playoffs on a high. And we need that. We definitely need that. And my third point is the 12th man. I think we need to shoot the hell up.
Protect the dick.
This is a team that is just breaking records for us left and right. And we're in the playoffs. We're already guaranteed home field advantage. And we're fighting for the Shield. Now, we can all hope that Dallas not only loses, but maybe their bus stalls and some players forget to get off of it or something.
Or they empty the septic out on the middle of it.
Whatever may happen, Perea runs into a pole. I really don't care. But I'd love to see them lose and us win and get that supporter shield. I think that would be huge for us, but
Go Galaxy.
that's entirely in our hands.
Go Union.
So we should cheer as if we are.
Go Rapids.
We should cheer as if we're going to win the shield because
Yeah.
it's going to be decided
Cheers.
while we're playing.
So we need 2 points.
Yeah, we need 3. So
3 points.
yeah.
Yeah. We
Okay.
need 3 have to lose.
Any C38 news that needs to be mentioned before we hype our tailgate and close this thing out?
So we're going to be presenting at the end of the game the Defensive Player and Player of the Year awards. The Defensive Player will be at 108, while the Player of the Year, I believe, will be at the Terraces, if I remember correctly. This will also be the last game
hold
that
that
we will
against
have the Terraces ever. So if you want to take the opportunity to go out there and sit in the terraces and hang out, any ticket should be able to get you down. They won't be there for the playoffs, and we don't have them next year. So send them off in good form.
Because you won't
Outside
hear
that,
them otherwise.
Board elections, I believe you have to have your email in with your bio and picture by Saturday.
Maxwell.
Maxwell
in for that?
already announced that he wasn't on my last cast.
Who's checking?
But we did have
Maxwell.
3 announcements, so I'll give a shout out to them. Michaela, Shane, and Jared all announced on our interview. Matt and I did. So
Sweet.
outside of that boring stuff, I guess we go on to the tailgate news.
Yeah, come visit us. We're going to be kicking it.
Come visit you.
Oh, yeah, because Brian never comes out to the tailgate.
Brian doesn't come to shit, and when
I'll
he
be
does,
on-
it's like
I'll be
7
on-
o'clock.
Interstate 76. Sorry.
But come visit us, because I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Brendan will be there. It won't just be me this time. So
No,
that'll
I
be-
made sure, I scheduled this vacation specifically to make sure that if I'm going to miss shit, I'm missing, stuff that's not the last game of the season. So I'm
And-
ready to kick this thing off with a bang, man. Let's do this. Let's blast it out and have a good time. So
Aren't the players doing walk around the field autographs?
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
Fan appreciation night. I think it's jersey off your back or something.
Yeah, it's that too.
Usually do a raffle for that at the last home game of the season or whatever.
They do random
So I think they're doing
drawings.
that this year. I hoping we might get a player interview. We don't really have any injured players left, so the chances of that are
Yeah,
probably
we're crossing our fingers for any sort of appearance.
Anybody?
We'd love to even have Fleming or Balboa or even Connor McGahee come visit us. You know, just shout out to you guys if you're hearing this. The other thing is a warning to those who are season ticket holder members. If you're looking to exchange your tickets for extra tickets, you better do it by this day, release day. Listen to it now. I'm telling you, this is the last day. If you go and try and get it done any sooner, it's not going to happen. I already tried to get most of mine, and I was only able to get half. So, putting it out there, if you haven't done your exchanges, make sure you get it done.
That's non C38 season ticket holders. I think.
Yeah.
Season 38, you have till Friday, which would be the day after the release. We don't do it on Saturdays, so don't try and use them on Saturdays.
That's pretty much what I was told too. So either way, it works out. So on that note, let's go kick some Houston ass and see you guys on Sunday.
At MLS from 5280.
Oh yeah. Follow us at the Voices C38 on Twitter.
Bang.
I am Dr. Voice. Later.
Don't flex. I roll deep, don't sleep, we next. All good Rex, got checks on checks. These parties rated XXX. I'm still friends with all my exes. We just out here living reckless, young and restless. Nothing's precious, not enough time to count my blessings. Yeah, all my homies popping now. All them OGs got me now. Fall with your hurt, can't stop me now. Gonna ride with a team every day of my life. Gonna mob with a scene with a J. Got a light, gonna pass to the crowd. You the band for the night. Man, pump this shit, it's a jam for the night. My friends